In this video, we're going to talk about how to standardize variables and how to create an index out of those standardized variables. So the data that we're going to be working with includes 100 observations of 3 variables. The 3 variables are the respondent's GPA or grade point average, their GRE score or their score on a standardized test, and their IQ or intelligence quotient. Now you'll notice that all 3 of these variables might have to do with how intelligent or smart a person is or how well you might expect them to perform in something like school or other cognitive tasks. But you'll notice also that these 3 things are on very different scales. If I want to create a single variable that includes all 3 of these elements, I can't just add them together because, as you can see, the GPA is so small, it would get swallowed up in the GRE score. And the GRE scores, in turn, are about twice, sometimes even 3 times as high as the IQ values. So these are on 3 really different scales, and so what we need to do first is get them on the same scale so that we can add them together into an index. So the first thing we want to do to put them all on the same scale is convert them into z-scores, or standard deviations from the mean on a standard normal curve. This will tell us for each score how far away it is from the mean and whether it's above the mean or below the mean. At that point, we'll be able to add the 3 standardized scores together. Just to sort of drive this point home, we'll summarize this data set, and you can see here that the mean GPA is 2.95, almost 2.96. The mean GRE score is almost 308, and the average IQ in our data set here is about 110. So what we want to do is get those all on similar scales and then add them together to create a new index. So to standardize those, we're going to go to the MPA Statistics tab, and under Edit Data, we're going to select Standardize Variables. When I click on that, it's basically just going to give me a list of my variables and ask which ones I want to have standardized. In this case, I want to standardize all 3. So I'm going to select all 3 by holding down the Shift key and selecting all 3 of those variables. If I'd only wanted to select a couple of them, I would use the Control key. But in this case, I want to select all of them, so Shift or Control will work. Once I click OK, R is going to create 3 new variables for me that are going to show the standardized scores for each of my 3 original variables. So if I run my summary again, what you'll see here are my original GPA, GRE, and IQ values. And then you'll also see these new variables that have Z period as prefixes for them. So you'll see here that my means now are very different from what they were before, and the standard deviations are all going to be 1, and these are going to range from somewhere below 0 to somewhere above 0. So now, if I want to add all 3 of those scores together, I need to go to MPA Statistics, Edit Data, Compute New Variable. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new variable that I'm going to call Smartness. And I want that to equal the sum of the standardized GPA, which is on a z-score scale, and the standardized GRE, and the standardized IQ. This is going to take these 3 variables that are now on the same scale, centered around 0, and with the same standard deviations, and is going to add them all together into a single index, a single variable. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and when I rerun my descriptive statistics, you'll see that I now have a brand new variable. And one of the things that I should point out here is when you look at these scores, this isn't a mean of negative 3.6 and a mean of negative 3.7 and a mean of negative 2.1. You have to watch out for this little guy here, e to the minus 16. What that's telling you is that we need to take this number to times 10 to the negative 16th. So I'm going to move this decimal point 16 places to the left. In other words, the mean of these variables is very, very, very close to 0. That's true of each of my standardized variables, and it's also true of the overall index score. Although the index score is going to have a slightly bigger range, it's going to have a lower minimum and a higher maximum because we added together all three of these other variables to get there. But it's still going to be centered right around 0. So these values inside this smartness variable don't actually mean a whole lot by themselves, except to say that any positive number is going to be above the mean and any negative number is going to be below the mean. And you can then use this index as its own measure, its own indication of the combined GPA, GRE, and IQ of the individual respondents.